listening to Her Profit Era, the podcast for founders who want a business that actually works. A business that's profitable, predictable, and pays them well. I am Cindy Kumar, a CPA, a fractional CFO from Abbotsford, BC, Canada. I'm the person founders call when they're tired of high revenue months with no money left over. I started this podcast because too many founders were chasing sales while their margins, cash flow, and bank accounts told a completely different story. I believe profit and money in the bank is the standard, not a bonus, and that every founder deserves clarity around their numbers. Each week, you'll get real financial strategy you can actually use and honest conversations with founders and industry experts about what it really takes to build a business that lasts. There are only 3 ways to increase profit, and people overcomplicate it all of the time. So I really want to simplify things because founders love to overcomplicate. If you're stressed about cash flow, profit, or why there's never money in the bank, you need to listen closely. Now, there's only 3 ways to increase profit. I don't care how many people tell you you need this strategy, that strategy. When it comes to your numbers, there's just 3 things. So here they are. You're either going to sell more, increase your prices, or cut back on your expenses. That's it. I'll repeat it again. You're either going to sell more, increase your prices, or cut back on your expenses. You don't need a million different strategies, not a new framework, not a new mindset rebrand. It's just 3 levers. That's it. And almost every cash flow issue I see comes from one thing. People are pulling all 3 at once, not doing one thing consistently to see what's working and what's not. So what I see is founders are constantly adding things to fix their money problems. I'm not making enough money. I just need to sell more. Maybe I need to increase my prices. Maybe I need to cut back on expenses. But they're not being intentional and not testing out what actually works. Instead, people launch new offers, new launches, new systems, new tools. They hear something that someone else is doing and it's like, let's add that in. But instead, you need to simplify. That is the only way you're going to add more cash flow and more profitability into your business. Because when I look at the numbers, the issue is almost never effort or ambition. I work with women doing 100K months and still they're losing money. They can barely pay their bills or pay themselves or have money for taxes. It's because no one has helped them make decisions about how profit is actually supposed to increase. And when that decision isn't clear, cash flow feels chaotic. Everything becomes so reactive in your business because you have no idea what's working or what you need to cut back on. It's not because money is complicated or these strategies are messy or confusing. It's because the business doesn't have a clear direction. So let's talk about the 3 levers, the way a CFO actually thinks about them, and real businesses with real numbers. Now, lever number 1 is sell more. This is the most easiest one, and I see people do this all the time. They're short on cash. Let's just sell more. And selling more is the one everyone reaches for first because it seems the most obvious. More clients, more volume, more hustle. But here's what goes wrong. I'll see a service business charging around $3,000 per client, let's say, for example. After team, delivery, and overhead, after they pay all their expenses, let's say it's $2,400, they're keeping about $600. They're exhausted. So they tell me, Cindy, I'm only making $600 per client. I just need more clients. But when you run the numbers, 10 more clients only adds about $6,000 in profit, which isn't much. Meanwhile, their workload, stress, and complexity, that just doubled and tripled. Now, that's not a growth problem, it's more of a margin problem. So, my advice in that area would be figure out how to minimize your costs so that $600 profit becomes more per client. Now, from a CFO perspective, selling more is never the first question or the first thing that I look at because I feel like any business can just sell more. The real question is whether each sale is actually worth repeating. If the profit per sale is weak, volume just magnifies the pain. Now, lever number 2 is increase your prices. This is the fastest lever to pull and the one people avoid the most. Not because it's dangerous, because it forces honesty. Now, let's use that same business. Instead of adding more clients, they increase their prices from $3,000 to $3,600. No change in delivery, no extra work, no extra costs. Now, that $600 increase per client goes directly to their profit. And suddenly they need fewer sales to hit the same income goals. Cash flow starts to stabilize and decisions feel less desperate. But here's the part most people miss. Price increases only work when they're actually intentional, when they're tied to real cost capacity and the owner actually gets paid. You shouldn't increase your prices for the sake of increasing them. Thoughtful pricing reduces pressure. And this is why pricing is one of the first things I look at. It tells me how hard the business has to work just to feel okay. But there's another issue with pricing. Most founders feel scared to increase their prices, which is more of like a mindset issue. They feel like if they increase their prices, they're going to lose their clients. And instead of taking that risk, they end up playing it safe. But the reality is inflation increases 3 to 5% every single year. So regardless of you increasing your prices, your costs are going to keep going up. And this is why I usually recommend increasing your prices by 20%. So that way, even when inflation increases your costs, you still have good margins. Now, lever number 3, cut back on expenses. This is one people either go too extreme on or they don't want to do it at all. Now, cutting expenses gets a bad reputation. People think it's being cheap or you're being reactive by cutting things out, but that's not how a CFO looks at it. So I'll look at a business doing $500,000 in revenue and immediately see $2,000 to like $5,000 a month just leaking out for no reason at all because the owner isn't willing to sit down with the expenses. Old subscriptions, contractors hired during a busy season who no longer make sense, expenses no one has questioned because we've always just paid for them. When we do that clean out, they suddenly have an extra $30,000 to $40,000 a year in breathing room. Now, I can give an example of what I did. So every month I do a 30-day expense audit. I call it the keep, kill, tweak method. So I'll look at my expenses line by line and I'll look at what do I actually need to run my business that I can't run it without. So I think of my tax software subscriptions, my Canva, excuse me. So I look at my tax software subscriptions, my Canva, I look at my professional development, like my CPA fees. I can't get rid of those. So basically, I'm looking at my expenses and looking at what do I need to actually run this business and what can it not run without. Those are expenses I really need to pay for my business to run. Then I'll look at what expenses are just fluff. So like coaching programs, subscriptions I'm paying for but not really need. Like, what can I get rid of? And for example, in 2024, I did this at the end of the year. I was working with a marketing agency I was paying them $1,500 a month plus $20 a day in paid ads. And once I did the math, 76% of my clients were coming organically. And I was like, I don't need to work with this agency. Like, I can just increase my prices to cover what revenue was coming from working with this agency. And I ended up just dropping the agency. And it made sense for me because I was just paying them for the sake of paying them. And as a result, I saved myself $1,500 a month. And then even my tax software subscriptions, I wasn't using all the features. So I just downgraded. And by making all of these changes, I added 30 grand back into my profit. So you can see by just looking at your expenses line by line, the impact it can have on your bottom line. Another example is I have a client that owns spas. Now, she was paying about 60 to 70% to her team every single month. So let's say she made $100,000. Well, $60,000 to $70,000 of that was going to her team. She was left with $30,000. Now she had to pay her rent, she had to pay herself, she had other expenses going on, marketing, you name it. Well, how did it make sense that most of her money was leaking out to her team? So within 90 days, I did an ROI breakdown of per employee. And within 90 days, we cut her payroll down by $24,000. So you can see the impact it can have by just sitting down and looking at your expenses from an objective point of view, rather than thinking you're cutting things out and have to give up things. So from my perspective, every expense should do one of three things: help generate revenue, support your delivery, or protect stability in your business. If it doesn't, it deserves a second look. Most businesses don't have an income problem. I know you have no problem selling and getting clients, but they have an expense problem, joining coaching program after coaching program, personal development. But instead of actually sitting down and thinking about, okay, I joined this coaching program, but what did it do for me? Did it help me get better at making content? Did it help me get more clients? Did it help me get more visibility? Did it help me develop my skills more so I can charge more and get better clients? Like, really looking at all of those things when you pay for expenses is going to go so much further. And then you don't feel like you're rushing into decisions, paying for programs for the sake of paying them. So why does cash flow feel so confusing? Now you probably think that running a business, you're so caught up in the day-to-day, you don't have time to look at what's going on with your cash flow. Well, this is where money needs are going to be super key. So cash flow feels complicated when none of the three levers are being pulled on purpose or being intentional. So what I mean with being intentional is focusing on one lever at a time, doing one thing in the area for 90 days, seeing how it works, where you need to tweak, and then moving on to the next. You don't know what's going to work for you until you actually sit down and do something consistently. Where my client that needed the ROI per employee breakdown, she needed help with cutting back her expenses. Whereas another client, they might have lean expenses and their issue is just their pricing, their offers, or getting clients. So you can see it's going to vary client to client on what lever is going to work the best for you. But until you sit down and try it, you don't know. So instead of working on these levers and doing something consistently for 90 days, people think, I just need more offers. I need more systems. I need more complexity. I just need to post more on Instagram, or I need to get on TikTok. I need to get on LinkedIn. And you just end up doing so much work and not even realizing what's working for you. And you're just wasting time by doing all of those things by adding more. Now, without answering one simple question, you need to ask, Are we selling more, charging more, or spending less? And if you can't answer that, it means your decisions in your business for your finances aren't clear. And that is why money will always feel unpredictable for you, regardless of how many clients you sign on, how many offers you sell, because you don't understand your cash flow. You don't know what seasons your money coming in, when your money has to go out. Like, you're just being more stressful and reactive, when the reality is you just need to take a step back, work with a fractional CFO that can do a full financial audit of what's going on in your business, where they're seeing your leaks, and actionable steps you can do on a monthly basis to actually make your cash flow and profitability more stable. And once you do that, things become more calm for you. So most businesses, they don't need more strategies. They need fewer, cleaner decisions. Now, profit doesn't improve because things get more complex. It improves because one lever is chosen intentionally and supported by the numbers. And this is why the numbers don't lie. And this is exactly the work I do inside CFO on Call. I don't look at tactics or telling my client you need to do more of something. We don't look at trends as well. I really look at which lever needs to be pulled that the client's not pulling, and which one's going to make sense based on margins, capacity, and cash flow. And when things are more clear, the business stops feeling fragile. You stop being reactive and chasing clients, feeling like you just need to sell more to make more. So if cash flow feels stressful right now, don't add more. Pick a lever, pull it intentionally, let the numbers do the work, because there are only 3 ways to increase profit. Everything else is just a distraction. Again, the 3 ways to increase your profit is sell more, increase your prices, or cut back on your expenses. That's it. If anyone tells you anything else, they don't understand cash flow or how finances work. So again, focus on selling more, increase your prices, or cutting back on your expenses. That is the only way your profit and your cash flow is going to grow. So that's it for this episode. If you found it helpful, share it with a friend who also needs to hear it. I'm also co-hosting a money magnetism workshop on Saturday, February 21st, 2026, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Sandman Signature in Langley, BC. So if you're interested in building a better system, a better relationship with money, I would love to have you in this room. We're going to have a vision board station. Raminda here is co-hosting with me. So she's going to be doing more of like the meditation, mindset, nervous system regulation. And I'll be going over easy strategies you can implement. So the money goals that you have, you're going to hit them. And that's it for today's episode. The link to sign up for the event is in the show notes as well. If you're a founder who wants real strategy, not noise, and you want someone in your corner helping you build a business that feels aligned, is profitable, and actually supports your life, you can apply for CFO on Call. This is my one-on-one financial partnership for established founders, typically making between $500K to $2 million, who want clarity, who want structure and confidence with their numbers. The link is in the show notes, so you can schedule a profit strategy call, or you can DM me CFO on Instagram at @CindyKamar, and I'll send over all the details.